Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. Um, Yesterday, Paul Mooney died. Um, for those of you who don't know, uh, Paul Mooney was a fairly prevalent comedian. He was he influenced so many comedians back in the day. Uncle Joey being one of them. Uncle Joey put up a post on Instagram yesterday, um, thanking Paul Mooney for the influences and all the help he gave him. And he died of a heart attack in Oakland. He was 79. Like, I've heard Paul Mooney been mentioned in various podcasts, like on Joe Rogan's show, and um, who else? Well, the let me see, which episode was it? Yeah, episode 10. Actually, 10 episodes back. Because this is I did an episode about what the fuck with Mark Maron with when he had Eddie Murphy on, and he was talking about how, because Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor were doing comedy together, and Eddie Murphy was just starting out, and Richard Pryor had asked him to come on and do a couple of shows with him. And I can't exactly remember what happened, but Paul Mooney wasn't being very nice to Eddie Murphy, and Pryor later on made him apologize for the way he treated Eddie Murphy. But he was a huge influence on many comedians' lives and their kind of style of comedy. He made very controversial jokes and all that, but you can research those yourselves if you're interested. It would be on Wikipedia or his life profile. But yeah, it was I don't know, it was kind of hit me, like, because I heard him being talked about on so many great podcasts and all the influence that he had. And it got me thinking to being controversial, because on Monday's podcast of Uncle Joey's Joint, he talked about he was talking about he was talking about, to try and put it in my own words, really, about artistic value and being an artist. And he mentioned one story where there was a comedian who was opening up for Bill Hicks when Hicks was alive, and he was asked by Hicks' bodyguard not to do that joke because Hicks was gonna do it. And this comedian was like, oh, okay, but he was like, he's thinking about it, and then he went on stage and he did the joke. And after the show, Bill Hicks came up to him and he said, "You're going on the road with me, because that's what it takes to be a fucking comic." And I'm only early in this career, or if it becomes a career, I don't know. Just an encoder thing popped up there. Whipheed's back. Yeah, great. Oh. Anyway, and I had a moment like this myself before. Oh. I had a moment myself before, I think was it was the very last set I did, which would have been, I talked about it in episode episode 4 is the last yeah, it was the last time I performed, and it was kind of, it was after the second break. I was going on after one more comic, and I was thinking in my head like, yeah, during the second break, I was like, I kind of wanted to experiment with the set, and I was, because I had a rough idea what I want. Well, I had an idea what I wanted to do, but I was like, you know what? I was talking to one of the people that was there, um, who was at the comedy show standing outside. We were talking, and I was like, "Oh, when are you going on?" He's like, "Oh, one more person that I'm on is like," and I was like, "I don't know, like the thing I wanted to do, I don't think I'll do." And I was like, "Cause it's a bit," and then as I sat there thinking about it, I was like, uh, "You know what? Fuck it, I'll do it." I went up, and like I said, it was one of the best sets I'd ever done. So I completely 100% understand what Uncle Joey was saying about, artists being artists, and because comedy is an art. It's entertainment. It's an art. It's a live performance. Can't really cut it any other way. And so they got me really thinking. And another thing that got me thinking on camera angle, just a minute, there we go, was that was Monday's podcast with Uncle Joey, but on Wednesday he had one of his longtime friends on, Jimmy Florentine. He talks about Jimmy Florentine all the time, and Jimmy Florentine, a bit like Eddie Trunk, did a radio show about metal, on Sirius FM, and he came on to the show, and he came on to the show. They were doing the Zoom, and he was wearing a Motorhead t-shirt. And Uncle Joey's talked so much about Jimmy Florentine that just the minute I seen him and come into the Zoom in the clip, and he's wearing a Motorhead t-shirt, like back in episode 18, I talked about my love of Motorhead, and the minute I seen it, I was like, it really struck a chord with me, as they say. That's a really good podcast. You should definitely check it out. But like I said, I have a real appreciation for metal. I've been listening to it for well over 15, 16 years. I started when I was like 13 or 14, so so yeah, that was it was really nice to see that. It was the same when Martin Moreno, who is one of Gabriel Iglesias' best friend, Fluffy. Yes, he is conned the name for himself. He came on and he was wearing a metal t-shirt. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Metallica or something. It was just and that always, like Jim Brewer, he always talks about listening to metal. Like last time he came on the Joe Rogan podcast, they were sitting there talking about AC/DC and listening to metal bands, and it was it was really good, especially for me to hear that sort of stuff. What else is on the agenda? Yes, I started listening to Community Service, which is a podcast run by Craig Conant. Conant, I don't know. And he's a comic. I first found out about him because he had Annie Letterman on, or Ani, as Kalila calls her. That's a Bill Bat reference. And he It's a really interesting family. There's 2 episodes. I'm listening to one actually now. I'm nearly finished, where he has his cousins on, because Craig is half Mexican. He grew up in L.A. and the stories that he has about his cousin. Like, I remember this time you robbed this guy and this. It's the 2 podcasts I really enjoyed is where he had his 2 sisters on and his mom, and then his the one that I'm listening to now with his cousins. Like I said, but it's just he's got a really really funny family, like, and yeah, it was really good, amazing content. Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoy those podcasts. Now, I'm not sure, but I heard it on the radio yesterday that in autumn in Ireland that live events might be coming back. Well, the plan, I think, was like a small thing. It was like, say the Kaiser Chiefs are playing in the comedy festival. I heard it when I was in work. And autumn is fall for my American listeners. And if that is the case, then towards the end of the year, I could be doing live comedy again, which would be great, because obviously they don't do open mics over Zoom for people who start out. There has been Zoom stuff done in Galway and the Roisin Dove, but that's for established comics, which I am not, unfortunately. Funny enough, Fabu D was who I think I met you one time when I came over. The day I met the improv troupe, he was hosting. He was emceeing that night, and so yeah, hopefully, it looks like by the end of August, well, you might hear me talk about more sets. I have a couple of things prepared for when I come back, but I really want to. I keep saying that I have like 25 minutes, a half hour, but I really want to flesh that out properly, to make it how will I put it, into, I suppose, a reliable 25 minutes, half an hour. Like I said, I might, I'm going to try and do as many open mics as I can, and then try and see if I could go and do other places. So we shall see. But thanks for watching. That's going to be all for today. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney. Rest in peace, Bill Hicks. And rest in peace, Pryor. We should see you all next week. This is a 4-month mark of me doing podcasts now, so I've been annoyed with the issues I've been having with the encoder. It even popped up in this episode. It might affect the episode halfway through because of it, but yeah. I'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.